But the question just been asking raises a point I wanted to say when Senator Hirono was talking, which is, how did we get to the point here where the evidence is now that the president was falsely accused of colluding with the Russians and accused of being treasonous and accused of being a Russian agent, and the evidence now is that was without a basis, and 2 years of his administration have been dominated by the allegations that have now been proven false. And, to listen to some of the rhetoric, you would think that the Mueller report had found the opposite.
On this episode of Just Informed, talk with Jeffrey Epstein dead of an alleged suicide while in custody of the NYPD in Manhattan. Let's take a look at Ghislaine Maxwell, his second in command, and she was allegedly the procurer of underage women for Jeffrey Epstein, allegedly his quote-unquote madam. We're going to take a closer look at her. An insider seems to be suggesting that she's reaching out to the only people left who will deal with her, the Russians. And there's a lot more to this story that you guys are going to want to stick around and check out. Hey guys, a quick word from the sponsor of this video, ApexHealth.club. Have you ever tried colloidal silver? Well, ApexHealth.club has an incredible version of the supplement that can help your body naturally fight off germs and bacteria. But this one's a little bit different and special. It's made with Manuka honey, which has a whole nother set of health benefits on its own. When you combine the two in an all-natural product, colloidal silver is the way to go. Did you know old-timers used to put a silver coin in their milk to keep it from spoiling? Now the same power can be harnessed for your first line of defense against germs. Support your body and be prepared for anything. Pick up a bottle of colloidal silver here at apexhealth.club. Use the promo code Craig to get 10% off your order. Again, that's apexhealth.club, promo code Craig to get 10% off. I hope you guys enjoy. Hi, I'm Craig and welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. I always like to begin, as you know, by saying thank you to everybody who's hit that subscribe button. If you haven't, come here to the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you get notified when these videos get posted. But today we're going to pick up, obviously, always right where we left off. QPost 3570, we're just checking the boards, and we do have an update on 8chan and when that's all coming back, so when we can probably expect to see more QPosts. But before we get into that, we have a big story we're going to cover here. An insider seems to be suggesting that now we know Ghislaine Maxwell is reaching out to a Russian billionaire named Oleg Deripaska. And if you guys recognize that name, it's probably because he played a big role in the whole Steele dossier Russia collusion hoax, with the narrative being that he was involved somehow. And with that being said, we're going to take a look at that, a couple other news stories and things that you need to check out. But before we do that, I always encourage everyone to come back here to the landing page, watch these last videos, make sure you hit the share button. If you haven't, please come here and do that. And if you're wondering why I'm asking, well, it's quite simple. There's an obvious algorithmic discrimination and manipulation going on behind the scenes. It's been going on for some time to suppress this content and to keep it away from people, because the powers that be do not want us to have a conversation about what could be happening. They want to label us as conspiracy theorists and, just write hit pieces about us in the mainstream media and call us all deranged lunatics. One of the best headlines I think I ever heard, I think came out of the Daily Beast, but forgive me if I'm misremembering. It was Pizzagate on bath salts. That's what they've called us. And now with their new big push to label us all conspiracy theorists and white supremacists and white nationalists, when I'm sure most of the people in the audience here are from all different ethnicities and all different countries. And it's just crazy what they try to label us as. But as they try to smear us and attack us with that and those lies, just remember that sharing these videos makes a huge difference. It's really an affront to what they're doing against us. So you just hit the share button. There's one at the bottom of this video. Hit it. And if you're scratching your head going, what is QAnon? Watch this video, share this one on your social media. You can find it right here on the landing page. So here's another story. And in order to understand this, you'd kind of have to get this story first, but I'll start here. Booker and Beto are blasting Trump for retweeting conspiracy theory linking Epstein's death to the Clintons. Now, what did President Trump do? Probably the most epic thing he could have ever done in the history of, whatever. Here, you can see for yourself. Donald Trump retweeted this picture or this video, and it's of Terrence Williams, who's very funny, amicable, nice guy on Twitter. And Terrence Williams, I mean, this is hilarious, but it's true and it's disturbing. And President Trump is the president of the United States. And when he puts this out here, it's not meant in jest. I mean, he's telling us directly, hey, I mean, I'm hearing from people that I know that President Trump is trying to directly say the Clintons were involved in this somehow. But even if they weren't, and you think it was some sort of, he's in Gitmo now, or he's in witness protection, or he's in a spaceship. I don't know. I've heard a lot of different theories. But whatever you think about it, remember this. All of the things that led up to this are related back to Jeffrey Epstein. And don't forget ever that the billionaire sex offender Jeffrey Epstein once claimed he co-founded the Clinton Foundation. This is an actual letter that was written on from his attorney on his behalf to the federal courts when he was being prosecuted originally. The excerpt here states, Mr. Epstein was a part of the original group that conceived the Clinton Global Initiative, which is described as a project bringing together a community of global leaders to devise and implement innovative solutions to some of the world's most pressing challenges. Focuses on the initiative include poverty, climate change, global health, and religious and ethnic conflicts. Yeah, doesn't look good for you, Clinton, buddy boy, And you see this and you think to yourself, all right, well, this is what we're being given as far as information goes. And President Trump tweeted that out. And now you have good old Booker and Beto, just two of the weakest candidates, lamest opponents that you could imagine, who are trying to get this nomination. They're basically fighting for the vice presidency at this point, or the vice president nomination. But here you go. I mean, the sad truth is that they're blasting it because it's not focused on them and it's not their agenda. They say things like, he's focusing on tweeting out Epstein conspiracy theories instead of, talking about climate change and gun control. And you're like, well, this is a little bit more pressing if you think about it. Children being trafficked into sex, human trafficking for sex, I should say. Epstein Island, what was beneath the island, the occultism, how it all connects back to Haiti. And that's something we're going to talk about here on this episode. Trust me. There is a very fascinating take on this that you guys are going to want to stick around to hear. But here's the other story that came out where they go back and they give us a list of all the Clinton associates who allegedly died mysteriously or committed suicide before testimony, including Jeffrey Epstein. Now, this is, you can read through this list. It's a very long list. And I'll tell you what, the one thing I noticed in this list is I'm never flying on a plane, any kind of private plane or anything, if I know anything about the Clintons, because like half the people on this list, maybe I'm exaggerating a little, but there was an awful lot of plane crashes on this list. And, it's like, how many times can lightning hit in the same place? But you go through this list, it's got each person, who they are, how they kind of knew the Clintons, and how they died. A lot of people, gunshots, and a lot of people from hanging. And it's just disturbing. You read through this whole list, not to mention the amount of bodyguards that lost their lives. There's over 11 bodyguards here that were serving the Clintons who've mysteriously died. So God rest their souls, but this is what we're up against. And that's what Terrence Williams was saying in the video that President Trump retweeted. And that's what President Trump is basically trying to tell us, is look at this body count of people who have known things about them or went to testify about them. The video that Terrence does is kind of funny in the fact that he says, look, I don't want to know anything about the Clintons, because it seems like everybody who knows anything about the Clintons dies like of suicide shortly thereafter. Or he should have said of suicide or a plane crash, because that seems to be the running theme here. But in some cases, there was no cause of death. There was one poor woman who was found basically naked in her office in the Department of Commerce, and nobody knew how she died. Crazy stuff, right? God rest all of their souls. God be with each and every one of them. And I just pray for these people, right? And their souls, their eternal souls. and what their families and oh. Anyway, here we go. This might be a little bit of why Jeffrey Epstein was taken out, if he was taken out, if he is not in Gitmo or in a spaceship or in witness protection. I don't know. Okay, all I can say is that Jeffrey Epstein, according to this article, was considering cooperating in naming names. That's an interesting choice of phraseology there, naming names, like we talked about on the channel before, like Q's talked about ad nauseum before with Rachel Chandler, or excuse me, Allison Mack, and then talking about Rachel Chandler. But naming names to reduce his sentence, and then very quickly thereafter he was found dead. Well, I wonder, right? Here are the Clintons. Hours after Jeffrey Epstein was found dead, they were at this event. And you can watch the video for yourself, but they're all like, this is not as much, this is more just, anecdotal. It's like, all right, well, they were smiling and waving. Of course they were smiling and waving. It was a public event, but at the same time, you got to imagine that they were probably very relieved to know that this, hopefully it was going to go away. And we'll see if it actually does. I doubt it will, unfortunately for them. Here's an interesting story. If you guys know anything about Epstein and his properties, one of the properties he owned before his untimely death was this and arrest was this property in New Mexico, which is in Stanley, New Mexico, which is just south of Santa Fe, in probably one of the most pristine parts. It's right there near the Pecos Valley, but it's a very large ranch that used to be owned by the former governor of the state that Jeffrey Epstein bought it from. Well, long story short, it's called the Zorro Ranch. It's a massive ranch. It's in Stanley, like I said, in New Mexico. And it was basically a compound that he went to frequently with his private jet. And a lot of people, high-profile people, made trips out there. And one of the Anons found this, which was this clipping from a newspaper that seems to show that there was the company that is the managing entity that was set up by Jeffrey Epstein to manage that Zorro Ranch, this Zorro Trust, won $29 million in the lottery in Oklahoma. Now, I'm not saying anything, but if there were certain officials who wanted kickbacks and wanted to fix it, I mean, I'm not saying anything, but everybody says the lottery's fixed, and it's a way to siphon money into, very, very wealthy people's pockets. Look at it for yourself. I'm not going to say anything other than that it's definitely an interesting story worth looking at. Now, let's get right into this. First of all, Q's mentioned Ghislaine Maxwell a couple times, and most specifically, the times that she's directly mentioned are here in July of this year. So last month, about a month ago, she was mentioned twice. First, Q gave us this. It was a New York Post article, which basically said inside the Victoria's Secret pipeline to Jeffrey Epstein. And Q says Ghislaine Maxwell, follow the family, UK, US 1 and 2, umbrella surveillance, leapfrog, 1 through 4 points of contact, open source, find 4. Now, then it gives this Zimbio article, which has this picture. First, it puts you on this picture to begin with. The second picture here, it just has her picture. But it said find 4. So I guess, I went over the 4th picture here. And you look at her at this picture of her at this event, the Women Inspiration and Enterprise. A who's who. You're talking about everyone from Katie Couric to George H.W. Bush's granddaughter were in this event with her back in 2013. It seemed, and Tyra Banks, and you name it. And it seems like this is the network that they were working from as far as influence and blackmail, maybe, possibly. With that in mind, remember Q says here, this is all about the surveillance that's been going on. We've been surveilling these people we know. And it says, New York Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children. Well, that's an organization that apparently exists that Ghislaine Maxwell was a part of, and we can only presume that if Q's telling us this and putting it in the brackets, then they weren't actually preventing cruelty to children, doing something that might inflict cruelty, but we're only not going to make any accusations. That's just a thought. Now, the next one here is this Rolling Stone article talking about who is the British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's longtime partner. And this is just a piece that goes through how she's connected to Jeffrey Epstein. And it gives this picture, which looks to be her and Bill Clinton, right? So put that together for what. So this is the big thing I wanted to get to. If you guys know this Crazy Days and Nights, it's a blog where people submit, these insider pieces, and it seems to be curated, and it is basically a place where people can anonymously post things that are happening behind the scenes, and without naming people by name. They usually just say it's a woman who is like this, or a woman with a name like that, or an A-list celebrity or a B-list celebrity or an A-list politician, whatever. You get the idea. So they talk in codes. So they talk about, and they do these things called blinds. And these blinds come out and they basically tell you about things that are happening behind the scenes without directly naming people, but give you an idea of what's happening behind the scenes. Now, this one is about a few people here. I want you to remember these names. This blind may be about Jeffrey Epstein, who is called, I believe, Monster in this. Ghislaine Maxwell, who I believe is called Mary in this. A powerful Russian oligarch, who I think is Oleg Deripaska. And we're going to talk about Oleg. If you guys don't know, Oleg Deripaska was one of the hardest hit Russian billionaires after the sanctions were put on, and also one of the main characters in the whole Russia collusion hoax narrative that was put together by the deep state against President Trump to portray him as having these deep connections to Oleg Deripaska, when the reality is that it was the Clintons and and a lot of high-ranking Democrat officials who had these backdoor dealings with Oleg Deripaska. But what's interesting to note is that in April 2018, when the U.S. Department of Treasury put these sanctions out there, Oleg Deripaska, according to his own words here, claims that his net worth fell by $7.5 billion, 81% of his entire fortune. So, look, this guy was hit hard. He has every reason to basically realize now that he can't fight what's coming. Neither can Ghislaine Maxwell, but let's read this blind, knowing what you know now, what I've just said, and you guys tell me what you think down in the comments. It says, from a CDAN writer named Him, not allowed to post this link in the sub, but you can. She's already spent over a week trying to arrange the meeting, but was having a very hard time. Now she is frantic. Apparently she was drawing more attention than even she could have anticipated, because with everything going on, she never imagined that even Russian oligarchs would find her too hot to handle. After all, their relationship went back decades, billions of dollars changing hands, and secrets that could change the history of more than one nation. She is a woman we will refer to as Mary. The best way to describe Mary is as a middle-aged, foreign-born woman raised in a life of privilege, wealth, global luxury, and a legacy of criminal immorality that warps the mind just to fathom it all. Her own father had been a scandalous man in every way that would be the center of a million stories of his own. The things she witnessed and even suffered growing up would be enough to drive anyone insane. Unfortunately, she decided to carry that torch herself. She has perpetuated that hell on her own. She became the partner, co-conspirator, and confidant of a man who has grown to be one of the most disgusting, perverted, rapist animals of our current era. We'll just call him Monster. His crimes and reach have been well documented for many years, and through it all, Mary has been right there. In fact, Mary has been of equal responsibility in that monster's crimes. She has been his procurer, his partner, and when the mood hit her, even a willing participant. She is no victim. But most of all, Mary has been in charge of all the cover-ups, lawsuits, and protection of both Monster and herself. Most of all, Mary has found herself trying to use the information, the proof she has as a bargaining chip to save herself, even against the most powerful people in the world. When many question how the Monster was able to facilitate relations with so many powerful people, they rarely saw Mary in the shadows. It was usually her hands at work, using contacts and relations of her family, her dad's old business friends and enemies, and many of his government friends. They all knew her charming social style. They also knew of her bent to the wild side and her anything-goes attitude, along with the discretion it required. Many people had forgotten, or maybe didn't know, of Mary's family and their relations with foreign leaders, especially third-world dictators. Mary was actually the missing link in a bizarre nexus of people who otherwise may never cross paths. From Hollywood celebrities to global corrupt military leaders to technology businessmen, Mary knew so many of them. Her father had paved the way, so it was easy for her to follow. This is why, when the sexually criminal actions of Mary and Monster began to be a thing among the rich and powerful, they needed more privacy. So it was Mary who found a very secluded island for their activities. This place and its many crimes have been documented many times, including by our pals at CDAN and in the mainstream press. But what is not as well known is this other foreign locale, nearly a country almost to themselves. It was within a country ruled by a nearly insane dictator under the guise of socialism. That dictator has now died, but his protege has carried on. Now, guys, before we keep going, I want to remind you, I think that the nation that's being referred to here, I mean, it might be too obvious to a lot of you, but I think the nation being referred to is Haiti. So keep that in mind when we're reading this. It says, this nation was also ground zero for a constant flow of vulnerable victims from dirt poor families that could be easily erased if the need be. Best of all, for their plans, it was within close jet distance from their private island and in the same hemisphere as the USA. No need to make refuel stops, so less paper trails. It provided no shortage of cover stories, including humanitarian work and environmental work, all within an easily bribed, corrupt government happy to provide protection. Funny thing for that for a social company or socialist country. They sure enjoyed the millions they got paid under the table to protect the criminals. The criminals were Monster, Mary, and their guests. This included not just the billionaires and politicians and celebs, but the top celebs or the top leaders of this country. It is very easy to connect the dots between this country, a legendary political family from America, and a super tough lawyer or two who are the weak links in the cover-up for Mary and the Monster's actions. So I'm thinking that the lawyer might be talking about Alan Dershowitz, I'm not sure. It says it was part of the lawyer's spin plans back when the Monster was first accused. Little did they know that many years later, those same news quotes and even YouTube videos would rear their heads to point the way to lead people to connect the dots. So obvious is it that Mary has contacted the lawyers and told them to warn the political family of their exposure, but those same lawyers aren't happy to take her calls now either. Nor is the Hollywood A-lister with a history of friendship with Banana Republic rulers. I'm not sure if this is... I'm thinking that the Hollywood A-lister they're referring to here is possibly Bill Maher. It says that A-lister was a guest of Mary as a tag-along with a member of that political family. The A-lister, for all of his own nasty history, enjoyed the party favors at the foreign hideaway, but he drew the line at partaking in sexual activities, which says a lot with that guy's history. In fact, the A-lister, who is either an actor or director or maybe both, was disgusted by what he was offered by his hosts and the few things he saw himself, so he partook of partying, drugs, but not the underage sex crimes. According to the A-lister, he is very scared about the people he did see there and what it could mean if it all came out. Not just as a witness for legal reasons, but scared for his life, not his career. As this guy who revels in controversy, he is literally afraid for his own life. Maybe he should have been more scared, not for himself, but for those poor victims, back when he was partying on site with them all. So now we've come back. Now we come in back where we began. The Monster is dead, and regardless of how and who and whatever, he is actually dead, cheating justice for all the victims. But there are many, many loose ends left out there. After this untimely yet very predictable demise of her monster crony, Mary is now frantically trying to secure a meeting with a Russian oligarch she knows well. A man who has spent millions and many years trying to whitewash his reputation and hide his own past, trying to keep himself far away from scandal, and appears just another billionaire global businessman. The last thing this guy probably wants is to be affiliated with Mary or mentioned in the same story, but he has no choice, really. Mary has proof of many of his old dealings, going back all the way to her father's era. Her father, a monster himself, had helped the oligarch in the late 80s, early 90s. Her father, who was murdered despite findings of suicide. Her same father, whose murder was alleged to be ordered by Russian oligarchs for his waste of tens of millions of their money, he was supposed to be laundering. In fact, the Russian oligarch and Mary have many similar friends in politics, Hollywood, and in sitting government positions today. The Russian also knows that Mary is clever enough to be sure that if she meets an untimely demise, much of that proof will certainly be made public. That would be a disaster for the Russian and many of the most powerful people in politics, both sides of the aisle, global business, and entertainment media. None of them want that. Some have speculated that Mary's father never actually died by suicide nor by murder, and that some of his former associates in foreign government security services had helped arrange his disappearance. It is with that in mind that Mary has contacted the Russian lately. According to the Russian oligarch, there is no way she can make it out of her current situation in one piece. The best she can hope for is to arrange a quote-unquote suicide or quote-unquote murder of her own that will allow her to slip off the map undetected. She still has tens of millions of monsters' money along with her own to help her vanish. Because if she can't do it, many others will make sure she does die for real. Those who can be bought or brought down by what Mary can reveal. They want time to stop her failsafe backup leaks before they leak in case of her demise. Meanwhile, Mary must certainly want to rapidly wrap up her future plans before she's locked up and cannot. According to the Russian oligarch, he's avoided this as long as possible. He has to decide what to do, so he has reached out to London and Washington to help him decide. But even he is afraid of the answer. So there you have it, folks. That is one of the new blinds over from Crazy Days and Nights. Not sure if this is going to actually turn out to be true or not, but look, if this is what's actually happening behind the scenes, you know, it's worth talking about. It's worth having a conversation at least. And I'll let you guys tell me what you think down in the comments below. That's basically where I want to go ahead and sign off. Oh, and one more thing before I go. Also, don't forget, I told you guys about 8chan. Jim Watkins, the owner of 8chan, the website, has said that they have their website voluntarily. They pulled their website down. They're meeting with Homeland Security. And as soon as they have that meeting with Homeland Security, the website should be coming back up. They're still looking for a company to replace Cloudflare as far as protection and security from DDoS, but they plan on bringing the site up, and that means we'll be having Q posts very soon. I believe they're in a meeting today or yesterday with Homeland Security, and that's just an update on that. So before we go, though, obviously come here, watch these videos, share them on your social media, get the word out that way. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Also, don't forget to leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below. I want to hear what you guys have to say about all of this. Also, be brave. Download the Brave browser. It's just like Google Chrome, but better. It blocks ads. It's better than all the other browsers, I think, because it blocks ads and it makes the experience just better. And when you use this browser to visit my channel on YouTube, it supports the channel. They actually make a contribution. And if you use the link in the description to download it, they'll actually help the channel out even more. So you guys come use the description, the link in the description, click this button, you download it, then you install it and you run it just like Chrome or any other browser, and it actually works. Also, don't forget, we have the American Priority Conference in Miami at Trump National at Doral. This is going to be epic. We're going to have a charity golf tournament. Everyone from Jason Chaffetz to Dinesh D'Souza, Matt Gaetz, Turning Point USA with Charlie Kirk, and Sarah Sanders, and even Don Jr. So if you guys want to meet all of these people and you want to come listen to them speak and possibly want to sign up to participate in the celebrity charity events like the golf tournament that we're going to have and the poker tournament, please use the link in the description and get your ticket and book your flights. You got 2 months, October 10th through 12th in Miami at Trump National. You guys know Doral, Blue Monster if you know golf. That's all I got to say. So use the link in the description if you guys are going to come there and see me. I can't wait to see all of you guys there. I really would enjoy that. Also, don't forget to come check me out on Twitter at JustinFormedYou. That's the handle. Pretty easy to find. Give me a follow over there and we can have a conversation outside the channel. And JustinFormedNews.com, the official website for Just Informed Talk. Links to the Q stuff, links to different news organizations, links to breaking news, and of course the latest videos from the channel. So all of that is here at JustinFormedNews.com. You should go check that out when you get a chance. And we also have a couple of the ways you can help out, both financial, Patreon, patreon.com. I've been talking to YouTube behind the scenes. They've decided to say that everything I do is too controversial for monetization, so they've restricted every video down to 0. And the only way I can keep doing this channel is with your support and with outside advertisers that I now have to go find for myself. But if you're an outside advertiser, write me an email, justinformedtalk@gmail.com. Or if you want to become a patron, come to Patreon, patreon.com. Click this button, become a patron. It's a monthly donation. Set it and forget it. Know you're helping create content. Also, I have a GoFundMe set up if you want to make a one-time or anonymous donation. So I really appreciate that. But Before we go, we do a segment at the end of each one of these episodes called God's Grace is Greater, where we talk about God's grace and how it is truly greater. And for this one, we're going to read a really short but important piece of scripture. It's out of the book of Philippians chapter 3, verse 12. It says, and this is talking about reaching forward to God's goals. It says, "Not that I have already reached the goal or am already fully mature, but I make every effort to take hold of it, because I also have been taken hold of by Christ Jesus." And that's the way we should live our lives, ladies and gentlemen. I implore you to see this and remember that God loves you, and remember that we may not have reached the pinnacle of where we're going to be. We may be in a lull, or we may be in a high. We may be somewhere in between. But we have to remember that if we make the effort to take hold of that incredible gift that God gives us, if we do that every single day, then we put our lives to God, and Jesus comes into our hearts, and the Holy Spirit fills us, and God is watching over us and protecting us, and that is what life is about, in my opinion. So share that message with your family and friends and loved ones, and put that positive message out in the world. But that's pretty much going to be it for me. I want to say thank you guys for watching this episode. Again, come here if you haven't. Click the big red subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications, and hit it, punch it, headbutt it, reverse roundhouse kick it, whatever. Hit the like button if you guys like this content and want to see me make more. But that's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching this episode of Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.